What is the coolest thing you have done by accident?
Before we begin with the first story, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us.
Number 20. I stopped a lady at a crosswalk because her underwear was hanging out of the back of her skirt. It looked like a mistake in the bathroom maybe. She stepped back off the crosswalk. In about 2 seconds later a vehicle making a left turn at high speed smashed into parked cars right next to where she would have been standing. She would have been dead.
Number 19. Scored a goal in a soccer game. I'm lousy at sports. Always have been. But, in 7th grade, I signed up for a lunch break soccer tournament. As expected, I was awful. All I could do was run around and get in the way of the opposing team. But one day, I was near the goal defended by the other team while nearly all the other players were heading back from the other end of the field. One of my teammates kicked the ball hard in my direction. Someone yelled my name. I saw the ball. I put up my hands to block it, remembered that hands aren't allowed in soccer, and ducked. The ball hit my head and bounced straight toward and into the goal, much to everyone's utter amazement. We won that game. I never played soccer again.
Number 18. One time I was driving a kid's bike in small circles. So I went a bit too tight on my circle, ended up horizontal with my bike, ended up with just the side of the pedal touching the ground, did a full 360 turn, then popped back up like it was some 1000/1000 difficulty BMX move or some shit. Like, is that even a move for BMX tricks? Not sure, but I did it, completely on accident, but still.
Number 17. I accidentally caught an interception in high school and scored a touchdown. I was just as surprised to catch it as everyone else since I was just crossing over, and the next thing I know I see the football flying over me. I instinctually reached up and caught it, and the only thing in my head at that point was run, so I booked it and got a 60-yard touchdown.
Number 16. Accidentally did a full 360 in my car while driving down an icy road in the winter. Nearly shat myself while watching the telephone pole getting closer, but I saved the spin and kept driving along like I meant to do it.
These stories really don't make it any easier for me to start learning to drive.
Number 15. So I'm riding my fixie, going as fast as I can, but all of a sudden the chain pops off and gets stuck, sending me into the longest, loudest, most dramatic skid across the asphalt ever. Note, I did not know how to skid, so I'm just holding on for dear life, trying to stay upright, and come to an abrupt, screeching halt, literally right next to an entire row of about 20 police officers on bikes who are blocking off the street. I look over and they are all looking at me, clearly thinking I was trying to intimidate them on purpose. 2 of them ended up giving me their number. Don't ask me why. It was a weird day.
Why did they give you their number?
Number 14. When my brother was in college, I'm younger than him, I took a weekend trip up to stay with him. One night we went to a line dancing event with him and a lot of his friends. I felt very out of place and very uncool since I was a lowly high schooler and they were almighty college kids, so I kind of kept to myself and was just weird when I got paired with his friends. Later that evening, we went to Waffle House to eat, and we were all crammed into a small booth, about 7 of us. My brother shot a straw wrapper at me while I was in conversation with someone, and I threw up my hand to shield my face without looking. The straw wrapper landed in between my index and middle fingers, and it looked like I straight up Narutoing him or something. The whole table exploded in amazement, and that's the biggest I've ever felt in my whole life. It's been 15 years since that happened, and it's one of my most vivid memories.
Number 13. When I was about 14 or 15, I was rushing down the stairs and tripped about 7 or 8 steps from the bottom, going into complete freefall for a moment. To avoid an extremely painful tumble, I instinctively reached out with my arm and happened to grab the newel post, the end bit of the banister, with my hand at the same time that one of my feet only just managed to make brief contact with a step. The momentum then swung my entire body around the newel post, my foot lost contact with the step again, then when I finally came to a stop I had landed firmly on both feet and didn't have a single scratch on me. One of the scariest moments of my life. It's either that or the time I gave my brother-in-law a ball in a cup for Christmas. Based on a long-running joke we had, I honestly picked good presents. After trying it out for a good while and having no luck, he got frustrated and jokingly said it was broken. To make him feel better, I grabbed it off the floor and said it took practice and that nobody ever succeeds at getting the ball in the cup right away. To prove my point, I had a go myself and nailed it on my first try. Neither of us really knew what to say.
Number 12. In a parking lot, a group of 3 strangers approached my friend. One guy was mad at life and tried to start an unprovoked fistfight with my friend. The 2 other guys went to surround him. I didn't know what to do, so I grabbed them by their collars. They pushed me toward the back of this old-school American car where I jumped onto the back bumper because I had nowhere else to go. The springs on that old car lifted both of them off of the ground. They must have thought I had done it myself. They then looked a little frightened. They then got their friend and quickly left.
Number 11. I was making eggs for breakfast one morning. I cracked the first egg and threw the shell over my shoulder into the sink. I did this 3 more times and each shell landed directly in the previous shell, forming a 4-egg-shell tower. That was nuts.
Number 10. When I was a kid, my cousins and I were outside and they were playing catch with a football. I was sitting on a chair not really paying attention, stretched out my arm to stretch, and at the same time, my cousin missed the ball when it came at him. I stretched out my arm and next thing I knew I've caught it perfectly without even looking. With my non-dominant hand, might I add?
This is the power of Ultra Instinct.
Number 9. Saved my friend's life, and maybe doomed her cousin to death instead. Okay, so this was the late 70s. My friend, a next-door neighbor, and I were maybe 4 or 5 at the time. She had family visiting at the time, and the visiting family left their 2 or 3-year-old son out to play with us in the front yard. For sake of brevity, I'll just say we were 5 and the son was 3. Yep, you heard correctly, they left their 3-year-old to be watched over by a pair of 5-year-olds. This was back in the days when lawn darts were a kid's toy and there were no mandatory seatbelts, etc. So my friend and I were being 5-year-olds, playing around and not watching her little cousin as closely as we should have been. Suddenly I see her little cousin, clad in nothing but a diaper, walk out into the street just as a pickup truck comes roaring down the road. I started screaming for him to come back. My friend, then alerted to what was going on, bolted into the street to fetch her cousin. I, purely instinctively, lurched forward and grabbed her dress and pulled on her, but only slowing her down. As she got past the point of the parked cars, the truck hit her cousin, killing him instantly, just a few feet in front of us. Her family heard us screaming and ran outside to see their son lying dead in the roadway. That is the first time I ever heard the banshee wail of a parent that had lost a child. That sound, it's not a scream, it is a sound so much more visceral, soul-crushing, and terrifying than any sound you can consciously make. I watched the boy's father cradling his son's body in the roadway like the dramatic death scenes you see in movies. Some seriously f***ed up shit for a pair of 5-year-olds to experience. I don't know how I am not more f***ed up than I am. So, by pulling on my friend's dress, I may have well prevented 2 deaths that day. On the other hand, she might have been able to snatch her cousin away to safety at the last second. I still don't know which it is 4 decades later, and it haunts me. It is tough just to write/relive this. Especially since I had kids of my own. Those memories have taken on a whole other meaning. Reply. So sorry to read about the dead, and at the same time, I am happy you saved the other child. Keep up, buddy. It's not your fault. Parents have the responsibility to take care of children. They were neglecting you. 5 and 3 alone? No. That's bad.
Number 8. Talk to 6 police officers on acid. I forgot I'd taken acid, and they seemed friendly, so I approached them and asked them if I could really only get to the train station using the escalator, 'cause my dog hates those. One of the officers started asking me questions about the dog, breed, age, etc., but it was my friend's dog, and I'm not a big dog person, so I didn't know. Thankfully, that wasn't at all suspicious to them, and they explained the obvious to me, that it wasn't possible to get to the station without the escalator, duh. When the dog and I got to the top of the stairs, it finally dawned on me that I'd just talked to a crap ton of officers on acid, voluntarily, and I felt badass and also open-minded as I'm not from a police-friendly community. I was also very happy that the police officers had been so nice to me, and that I learned something about the dog.
Number 7. I was a lifeguard on the ocean. I was having a pretty day, and on top of it my lunch was postponed an hour. I headed up the beach to the nearest hotel to eat. As I was leaving the restaurant, I heard a crowd of people screaming near the pool. As I came down the stairs towards, I saw a young child floating face down in the water. I immediately pulled the kid out and gave rescue breathing until the EMT could arrive. The next day the parents walked down to my stand to thank me. They were originally told by their doctors they couldn't have children, but a few years later were blessed with this young boy, their only child. The mother told me I was their guardian angel that day. I'm not a very religious person, but this story still gives me goosebumps knowing that I was the right person in the right place at the right time for that boy. I started off angry about my lunchtime change, but this was the outcome.
Number 6. We were playing a game of dodgeball, and since there were too much people on the benches, the coach decided to add a rule: anyone who can throw the ball directly into the basketball goal, spelling, can immediately deliver everyone. I had one of the balls in hand when he said that, and the moment he signaled the game to continue, I threw the ball randomly, because I have the worst aim ever, and it somehow went straight into it. I never managed to pull it off a second time, but boy was I proud for the entirety of that day.
Number 5. I had headphones in while walking downtown on a busy street. A kid almost hit me with his bike coming down the driveway, so I stopped it by the handlebars. The mom came running down the driveway, and I was thinking, oh great, a Karen. After taking my headphones out, she thanked me in a panic for stopping her son from flying into the street as a car passed by. Never noticed it drive by.
Jesus, that's amazing. You saved that kid!
Number 4. I was face/rolling last Saturday night out at the bars, and heard someone screaming inside this cookie joint at like 2 a.m. So I drunkenly ran in because from the window, it looked like an old friend of mine, and I thought maybe something was wrong. I get inside and decide I want to just surprise him by running up and hugging the shit out of him from behind. So I wrap my arms around him and scream, "Guess who, motherfucker?" All of a sudden, the few other people in this cookie shop run over and tackle us to the ground. I'm beyond up, so I just lay there with my arms locked around my friend while people are on top of us. Someone then shouts, "I got his gun!" Yep, not only was this guy not my friend, but he was in fact robbing this place. I had just drunkenly stopped a fucking robbery. Apparently, when I hugged him and shouted "Guess who?", he got so scared that he dropped his gun, allowing the other people to rush in and subdue him.
Dude, this is the best story in here. Calling it. Straight out of a movie. Jesus though. You could have got shot, or caused someone else to get shot. Holy shit.
Number 3. High school. Walked by 2 kids in the hallway. Kid 1 playfully threw a water bottle at Kid 2's back just as we passed each other. The bottle bounced off and I caught it with my hand without looking or even turning my head, and I just had a blank nonchalant expression as I did that. I handed it back to them with a poker face, but I was actually losing my mind and felt like Spider-Man, lol.
Number 2. I was a waiter back in college and was carrying a huge tray of dirty dishes from the dining room to the kitchen down a little hallway. I slipped on some water, went down hard on my ass but managed to keep the tray perfectly level and didn't spill a thing. Not a major achievement, but kept me from having to clean for the next half hour.
Task failed successfully.
Number 1. First bartending shift ever, picked up a bottle of fairly expensive liquor, Patron Anejo. Slipped from my hand, held out my foot to slow the fall of the bottle to lessen the spread of shattered glass, and the bottle ended up resting on my outstretched foot completely unharmed. The one customer that was there, slow opening shift, saw the whole thing and freaked out, thinking I've been bartending for decades. I've never felt prouder of my reflexes.
Thank you for watching. If you like to watch more of these videos, please leave a thumbs up, comments, subscribe. And don't forget to share to your friends and family. I'll see you in the next video.